so massive now. It's Frank Lampard just coming over, giving it loads. Can't quite believe this team. Lampard's absolutely buzzing. So are all the players. Oh my word. I can't believe they've won that. Andy Gordon's coming over now. He was absolutely brilliant as well today. Going on fumes at the end, but it's so big, isn't it, that result? But what happened this week? I think everyone was flat coming to the ground today. Now everyone's absolutely bouncing on the way out. Team just doing so many big performances there. Ben Godfrey was immaculate at the back. You know, Alex Iwobi was best game he's had for the club in midfield. Just everyone. Vitaly Mykolenko, best game since he's joined. Just absolutely phenomenal. It's weird to do, but fucking hell, can't quite believe it. That's been the starting the match reaction anyway. You'll hear us in about 10 seconds of quiet surroundings, but my God, get in, put those toffees. Oh, deep breath, out to the frying pan, onto County Road. I've got Mark Mosey with me here. I'm just knackered after that, mate. Just absolutely, you know, after Newcastle we were still in this exact place, and I felt like we could go out all night and stay out and drink and party and celebrate, but I just want to go to bed after that.
I can't believe I haven't had my customary look at the league table, which I'll very briefly glance at now. Yeah, it's exhausting, isn't it? I think that obviously, you know, the entire process is exhausting. We said this on Wednesday night, in that trying to consistently get yourself up for moments like 12:30 today are increasingly difficult when we got nothing back. But I don't think anyone walks away from that stadium thinking that today. You know, obviously pre and during the game, getting yourself up for a Man United game at home at Goodison Park in albeit relatively chilly sunshine is never a chore, but today was imperative that, you know, most of us would have taken 3 points at the start of this week, and albeit we wanted it to be against Burnley for obvious reasons, but it was essential that we had something going into this last 8 games to cling on to, and I think every single individual has given us that today. This wasn't a team performance whereby you look at a Newcastle game where we were average in the main part and managed one moment of individual, you wouldn't call it even brilliance, it was just one piece of technical ability that got us over the line. Today was one of those, to me it felt like an Everton team from 5 or 6 years ago who finished 7th or 8th, and they were pretty good. They were close to unbeatable at home just because of how good we were back in the day here, and we kind of just put in what felt like a relatively routine win against a poor Man United team. It all felt not flat, but it felt as though we were far more comfortable than the league table ought to tell you it should be. But I think that's obviously a credit to every player, but also in terms of the manager of how he set them up. Yeah, and it's just on the atmosphere. I think there's one positive to come out of all this and all this misery and this poor season. Like the last few weeks, it's been amazing in there, hasn't it? You know, the game against Newcastle at the end was unbelievable. And there were, me and you can go to this ground for 30 years now, and there were times today, even having been there so many times, seen so many great games, I thought, fucking hell, this is loud. Like this is really loud today, and you could
There was a moment where Richarlison was, after he'd done a seal dribble, which I'm sure we're going to speak about in a bit, came over and did a little fist pump, and it was properly rocking. And listen, you're not going to always get atmospheres like that we've had over the last few weeks, because sometimes you're mid-table and sometimes there's not really much to play for. But it does feel as though there's been a massive step up from that point of view. And again, the flags and the banners look boss again before the game today, and I just hope it's something that we can sort of continue despite all this.
It's just, everything you said is spot on. It's just a shame that it'd come out of necessity. Firstly based on league position, obviously, but also the fact that we simply need it to be like this at Goodison Park, because it's everything but this when we go on the road. But as you say, the noise, the fact that the players are so, I've seen Everton teams be better at football and finish higher up the league table, but not be as in tune with a fan base as this lot are. Don't get me wrong, I know which one I'd take over the other, but it really does feel there are moments of home games where the entire playing staff switch on to the fact that you do need to win niggly fouls, you do need to keep it in the corner for 5 or 6 minutes, which to me that was the most pleasing element of today's game. The fact that we totally, other than one Ronaldo chance at the end, we totally nullified the last 10 or 15 minutes of the match, and that is how you win games. That's how you win things in general. I know we're nowhere near that at the moment, but that's the type of know-how that, albeit in a totally different context, Sean Dyche and Burnley used a lot of know-how on Wednesday night to get themselves over the line, and I feel like we were capable of doing that today. It wasn't the most creative game for Everton. So many of our attacking players from that side of their game were quiet. Dominic Calvert-Lewin in particular, obviously, we'll talk about long into the week. But today was all just about one thing, wasn't it? And it's a difficult weekend to get a positive result, which sounds ridiculous, but with Watford playing Leeds and with Burnley playing Norwich, I feel like the impact of these 3 points are probably not going to be known for 24, 25 hours, but it's just imperative that we concentrate on doing our own thing at the moment. And obviously today is about the 3 points, but for me today is about going into the last 4 home games thinking we're capable of getting 9 points. 9 points from 4 home games is absolutely enormous, and it may or may not happen, but the fact that we're able to possibly think about the prospect of beating teams again now is absolutely massive.
And today was about Andy Gordon, wasn't it? It's I think they were better in all-round performances that we'll speak about. But it was his 4th goal of the season, but it felt like it's his first in a way, didn't it? Because the 2 goals he scores against Brighton when we're 2 goals down in the match, and he's got to run into the net and get the ball back and go and kick off again. His 3rd one was that little flick off Richarlison's shot against Leeds, which I don't even know if he knew that it went in. But I've been saying on the shows for a while now that I think one of the reasons he's maybe a bit rushed and looks like he's trying too hard sometimes, that he's still not had that moment. He's not had what he had today, where he scores. It's his goal. We've gone ahead, and he can do the run over to the corner and do the knee slide, which he's probably been practicing. And he can get the adulation. And like I said, I don't think he had a particularly good all-round game today. But if there's anyone in this team that deserves a moment like that over the last few weeks, for how they just stuck at it, ran themselves into the ground. I mean, the lad was out on his arse at the end today, but I think he's the one who deserved that moment more than anybody, and I'm just made up that he got it. And he certainly would have dreamt about growing up, wouldn't he? Scoring the winning goal at Goodison against Manchester United. It is literally what dreams are made of for a young Evertonian.
I mean, we're still in the shadow of Goodison here, so we can actually hear the circling of the dubious goals panel like sharks, waiting to see if that shot was just
on target.
If it was even thinking about hitting the post, it's getting hooked from him. But you're right, actually, when you go through his goals, they have all had that sort of deflected, broken nature to them, haven't they? But obviously today is all about him for one main reason, is the fact that he's willing to take that risk from 20 yards. I mean, I've already heard it said in the half an hour since kick-off so many times that you only get those deflections and those breaks if you're willing to break forward as a midfielder, and when the opportunity comes, you're able to take a shot on goal. And I appreciate the opportunity kind of, literally lands at his feet today, but we've said this about Everton's, primarily their attacking midfielders in recent years, in that we've almost veered into that that dangerous realm of trying to score the perfect goal all too many times. If we go back to people like Arteta and Pienaar, they weren't ones for getting the ball 20 yards from goal and unleashing. And when they did that, Arteta in particular, it paid off. Someone like Gordon, I like to think that he's been told yes to break forward, but also just to be that little bit more speculative when he gets in and around the box. The goal for me is it's a contrast of two players. I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin picks the ball up on the halfway line. Dalli's is out-muscled. Fabian Delph does a very similar thing. I think it was Delph as opposed to Allan. It was one of the two central midfielders. But there was two Everton players in that moment that really didn't tap into the intensity of the build-up play. Had no real tempo about them. And when Anthony Gordon picks the ball up on the halfway line, yes, it turns out to be a misplaced pass to Richarlison, who could have been through on goal. But he is
positive, isn't it?
My point being, he is someone who consistently thinks about how to take this team forward, and be it on a grand scale of keeping us up in the league, or be it 20 yards up the pitch, he wants to be progressive with his play. It didn't play off with that pass, but he then follows it up 35 yards to keep up with play and then to unleash a shot. Everything about his all-round game, bar that last 15 minutes, was fantastic. But the last 15 minutes, I've never seen an Everton player more on their arse than he was. It was amplified because Man United were trying to do everything down their left-hand side. It was harking back to the Anthony Martial trying to bully Seamus Coleman days.
It was like having Rodriguez out there, wasn't it? Do you know? It's just like you basically just got a body you can't really offer anything at all.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, in seasons gone by, Jibril Sidibe would have been waiting with one sock on to come on and play the second right back role just to firm that side up a bit. But I'm not going to stand there and fault him for that. I did look over at the bench and think, who possibly do you bring on in that situation? But I think Decore helped slightly when he came on and firmed that up. But speaking of that last 15-20 minutes, I know I've touched on keeping the ball in the family enclosure Gladys Street corner like we did, but whether it was Man United being poor or Everton just having that little bit of assurance about themselves, we looked relatively untroubled. And again, I say that was probably the most pleasing thing for me today, in that a relegation threatened Everton team is programmed for panic, and that is probably the one emotion that I didn't feel today.
And there are a lot of, rightly so, there are a lot of strong words said about this team and the character, and I think it was nice to see some of those players sort of respond to that today. And we've both spoken about him before we started recording today, about Ben Godfrey, who obviously made the key mistake in the game on Wednesday night, and makes a rash clearance. But today he was anything but, wasn't it? He was every single cross, he was in the right place. He was authoritative. Not like the surging runs he does or the eye catching stuff. It was just really good defending, and he sniffed out all the danger all day. And I think that's probably his best game for Everton for me as a centre back. Obviously he was amazing at left back at times last season and put in some swashbuckling performances, but in terms of discipline, in terms of defending, in terms of sniffing out the danger, I think that's the best he's played for Everton.
I thought him and Keane really were both very good. I'm hesitant to give Keane an enormous amount of praise, because that first 20 minutes was akin to Alex Iwobi's last 20 minutes at West Ham. It was real painful stuff, but credit to him that he's the type of player who we pointed the finger at in the last few years, to go back as someone who, if he has a bad 20 minutes, you're going to have a bad 90. And I really don't think that was the case today. And time again, United's most prominent option coming forward looked to be a diagonal ball from full back into their central striker it's probably something that, to their credit, they've probably looked at Everton over the last few weeks and thought, if you play that ball directly at their centre halves, you'll probably get something, and they got absolutely nothing today. Godfrey, as you said, in the air, yes, I think he hoovered up pretty much everything that came in particular from our right hand side. But I think the thing I like about him is that when the ball is played into the striker's feet that he's marking, there's a notable level of aggression in him trying to win the ball. I think so many of our defenders are so passive when the ball comes into their man, be it a centre half or a full back. I think the only other person I can think of in recent years who actively tried to make life horrible for an attacking player was Leighton Baines. He always used to just try and be a pain in the arse.
Yeah.
And
Funes Mori, but in a different way.
slightly different way. But the thing that fell into Ben Godfrey's hands today was that the exact type of reaction you don't want your attackers to have when they're under that level of pressure you're going to get from Man United, because Marcus Rashford, Ronaldo, in particular Bruno Fernandes, absolutely none of them are interested in getting lobbed up in the air by Ben Godfrey, and that's all he wants to do. And do you know what, it was far less industrial than what I'm making it sound in terms of his gameplay, because he does have that level of calm and maturity, and it's by no means just a kicking everyone up in the air performance. But I think the level of aggression he has, we've said time and again this season that he's capable of being the men stood around the boys around him, and disappointingly it has looked like that at times, albeit not today. But if you talk about future leaders and captains and all of these things that we like to label young aspiring English footballers with, then he ticks every box at the moment.
I think it's the first time today I've come out the game thinking he's had a good game, and it's being about his positioning and his awareness and being in the right place.
The clearance in the first half of the Godfrey.
I mean, that like when it came across right in front of me, I was like, own goal. It goes through. He's going to slice this into his own net. But that's the first. We've loved his thundering tackles. We love the way he can carry the ball and all those sorts of eye-catching things. But that today was the first time you could say the reason he played so well was because he sensed the danger, he sniffed it out, and he was in the right place at the right time. And the same, to carry on with that theme, as we mentioned about bouncing back from mistakes. I think when we spoke on the podcast on Sunday after that West Ham game, we were worried about Alex Iwobi because of the way in which he sort of faded out of that game, and he was a player that's so brittle and confident. You thought perhaps this is going to set him back again, but played okay on Wednesday, I thought. But today it's the lad never stops running, and I think at times just like watching N'Golo Kante out there, wasn't it? The ground he covered was unbelievable. He was leading the press, and he's got that little bit of something on the ball as well, and the way in which he carries it. And listen, I don't know if he's got a future at this football club, but I think the one thing that's become certain of these last 3 games is that if this lad's going to make it at Everton, it's going to be playing in that position in central midfield. I don't know if he's there yet or good enough to do it on a consistent basis. That will come with time, but I think if Everton are going to invest in this player, going to invest in the idea of Alex Iwobi, it needs to be as a number 8 in that midfield.
There are hundreds of reasons why that team needs to play 3 in midfield, and I have banged that drum for far too long now. But if not only because we haven't got 2 who are capable of doing it on their own, and obviously Alex Iwobi is never going to be one of those 2, but what he does give you, yes, he gives you the engine, and he gives you, the amount of running he did today. I was tired in the end of just applauding him for not actually doing anything with the ball, but just legging it side to side.
Has this always been in his game? This feels like a new thing for Alex Iwobi, being really hard working and great off the ball.
I think that it's the iconic point that every midfielder in particular in poor form goes to, isn't it? And especially in Everton play, if things aren't happening for you and you've been labelled as a creative player and you're not creating anything, then my advice would be to go back to basics and run your arse off. And it looks as though that is definitely, as you say, it's definitely been there inside him, but we haven't seen it anywhere near enough. That is comfortably his best game that he's ever played for Everton by a million miles. And the thing I like about him being the third of the 3 midfielders, as you call him, the one with that little bit more freedom, is that if you put him 40 yards out from goal in between the lines, he is capable of picking that pass. It only takes one of those moments in a game. For my money, he created one of those, and it was just unfortunate that it was Calvert-Lewin on the end of it running through on goal, as opposed to a Damari Gray or a Richarlison, who probably would have made more of the situation. But I can't fault one aspect of his game today, and we've already stood here and spoke about numerous individual fantastic performances, but Alex Iwobi for me is head and shoulders above all of them, because
he's man of the match.
Absolutely, probably. Absolutely. But I think there's an undertone of redemption about Alex Iwobi, isn't there, whereby when he is able to pick that out in a situation that we're in against a team that we're against, I think a massive credit to a lad who I think most of us were ready to write off 6 months ago.
Yeah, and just one last player I want to speak about individually. Like I said, I thought Pickford was man of the match for those early saves and that late stop, but he's been excellent in the main all season. But Mykolenko today as well, really good signs from him. I think we've spoken on the pod a lot about not being quite sure about him and maybe not the best going forward or the best technically, but just really athletic today. I thought he looked a lot fitter than he has done since he's been at the football club. And probably no surprise that having played 3 games in a row, all of a sudden he's looking a bit more accustomed to the Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. The problem with him is that there will be the eternal comparison, won't there? With not only Luca Dean, but we've got Leighton Baines, we've got Ashley Cole as coach and stuff. Like, there are numerous other left backs in recent times who are willing to make him look a little bit worse than he probably actually is. I don't think he's lit the place on fire since he's come in. There are numerous footballing and non-footballing reasons why that may be the case, but certainly in the Burnley game in the week, I thought it was a massive improvement. From a very basic point of view, to get him forward on the pitch, to get him inside the penalty area in order to win a penalty, for me at the time was progress, but today was leaps and bounds. We don't know if this is going to be the fullback who gets us 10 or 15 assists a season. I
don't think he's ever going to be that, is he?
Well, and that's unfortunately where we've been spoiled over the years, isn't it? Everything goes down Everton's left. Everything involves their left winger, and in particular their left fullback, and that pressure will rest on his shoulders for some more time to come yet. But in a very similar breath to you look at Alex Iwobi, you want someone like him to come in and on the back of a couple of average to good performances and showing a bit of promise at Burnley. If you've got Man United in the early kick-off on a Saturday here at Goodison and the ball's there to be won in a 50-50, you absolutely launch your entire body into it. And the number of times he was aggressive and firm in the tackle today, didn't shy away from challenges on the floor or in the air, kept whoever was playing right wing for them quiet, because between Fernandes, Ronaldo and whoever was at that point drifting out onto the right hand side. Exactly, they're very fluid and it can be difficult as a fullback to pick that up at times, but there was no interest in Man United to go down that right hand side in the second half, and I think a lot of that was due to the fact that we had notable weaknesses on the right hand side with Gordon flagging, but I think they probably took a look at Mykolenko in that first hour and thought we're getting absolutely no change out of that lad, and it was nice, the last 10 minutes that we spoke of, to see it down Everton's left hand side. Richarlison was obviously always going to be involved, but to see Mykolenko linking up with him before Richarlison went central, winning those niggly fouls and those throw-ins off United players, taking all that appreciation from the main stand and from the Goodison Street, it was one of those games that was pivotal in what you hope will be a very promising future for him. He's
just really athletic, I thought, today as well. He just looked like physically really good. So, and listen, that's all going to come with time. And like you said, there's obviously been a lot of stuff on his mind, but not out of danger yet, mate, are we? But I think it felt like all was lost in after that Burnley game, and to be here now with 3 points is just. Like I said, I'm just exhausted. It's been so draining. I'm glad we've got a 10-day break.
Yeah, I mean, I say that the main positive for me is that I do look at those home games now, and it's up to you in terms of how pessimistic you want to be of whether you throw those away games in the bin yet. But I don't know. The optimist in me probably does look at Leicester and Watford and think, well, the components are clearly there, aren't they, to go and I'm not talking about minor miracles here, but going away to Watford to get a point should be capable for these lads, and I know that we'll stumble on the road eternally, and that's just what Everton do, but I'll certainly look at every single home game here regardless of opposition. Part of me favours Man United and Chelsea coming here because the intensity of not only the players but just everything about that place today, and they are the afternoons with Bramley-Moore shooting up by the day, regardless of what league we're in. I will miss that.
It's going to be horrible, isn't it? No, I was thinking that myself today. Like, I don't even want to leave this place.
But part of me thinks it'll be less painful just to go down than to have a really good final season here, because if we're winning week in week out against big teams like that in the sunshine of Goodison Park, we won't ever want to leave. But I think that they're the afternoons that in 3 or 4 years' time, regardless, as I say, of the situation that we're in, we'll reflect on and think we were living in a very fortunate time there.
Yeah, great to beat Man United. They are a detestable outfit, aren't they? They've got some horrible players, and then I mean, there's some talent being won. I know we're in no position to call anyone awful, but you know, you look at the players they've got there, and they were terrible today, weren't they?
I think it was yourself a couple of weeks ago, Matt, that said that they are Everton with better players.
Yeah.
There is no plan. There is no connectivity between any of the players. You know, we're fortunate. I sit relatively close to the pitch. You're able to gain an appreciation of a football team's strategy and what they're actually trying to do with the football, in particular at the Park End. Unfortunately, in the last 20 minutes of games when teams are really coming at us, for me there wasn't that level of danger today, because it all felt very broken from a Man United point of view. And you know, as much as I really don't care about them, we said that their fans are eternally not optimistic, but that they are with their team. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But the animosity from their 3,000 fans towards their players going off in that corner today was tangible.
Heartwarming from our point of view.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah. Seeing Ronaldo limping off in tears was fabulous as well. But
was he crying?
Not literally, but you know, we all know the face. Well, you know what, we can empathise in terms of where we've been this season, but I don't think as an Everton fan that, as you said, coming to the stadium for the last 30 years, I'm not ready to hold out the olive branch of sympathy yet, because they have seen some good times. But yeah, it's nice for once that, you know, we've seen weak football teams come here and use Everton and Goodison Park as their medicine to change that, and for once to stand on the neck of a failing football team and really take advantage of that. It was a refreshing change.
Get in. We're off for a big sleep, I think, after that. Absolutely knackered.
Especially after your day at the races.
Well, yeah, it was all right. And yeah, just as well, everybody came up to us an intro yesterday and in the ground today and said,
Having a shite.
and said thanks for the pods and the content recently. I really appreciate it. Might spit to some of you in a bit of a worse state yesterday. So I can only apologise for that. But yeah, enjoy what's left of your weekend. Anyway, that's been your instant reaction. Forward Everton 1, Manchester United 0. I'm on holiday tomorrow, so Dave Downey's your man this week in regards to the podcast. So there might not even be one, you know, unfortunately. You never know with Dave. But so yeah, I'll be back again next week ahead of that Leicester game. But yeah, enjoy your Saturday night. We've absolutely needed that. Up those toffees. I'll speak to you soon.